I'm being. Yep. Cool. Well, anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome Dasmiko. Welcome Miranda. Welcome Harrison. Myself, and Kevin, we are with Kickstart Coding, and this is a presentation to chat about our brand new online coding program. So you can. Oh, didn't mean to select the thing. Let me do that. This is we're still learning the ropes of doing these events online. We've been as I mentioned to Miranda earlier, we have been teaching in person for going on for about about 2.5 years by now almost. And now we're transitioning to teaching online, and also we are still learning how to have these events online because we love events. We love especially events that help new folks, new coders get up to speed or at least know where to start. Is one of our favorite things to do in events, is just giving that first few hints of where to start. And because we're still learning, so definitely give us feedback on how this goes, and also do not be shy with questions in chat or unmuting yourself. So right here, yep, right there, we got the Kickstart Coding story, and that's usually like how I like to start these events, and a little bit of an introduction about us. Thanks, Jensen. So a little bit of a introduction about us. So I'm Michael. You can see my black and white photo right here, and you can see the less black and white video here. And then you see Kevin down here. Those are the two folks on this call. I am the founder and lead instructor with Kickstart Coding, but you see that we have two other instructors as well, Mark and Maddie, and we all have we've all been teaching and advising and software developing at so many different companies. Myself, I used to teach at Berkeley Extension for a couple of years before this, and then I was also an engineer at many different companies, including I was at Facebook and Microsoft for a little bit each. Not very long, but that was a while ago. But still, after that I worked for a bunch of smaller companies, and now I've kind of transitioned to I guess maybe my true passion, which is imparting all this that I've learned and all these skills that I've developed, imparting those to others, and that's why we're here at Kickstart Coding. So, and as you can see, Mark, Kevin, and Maddie, we all are very passionate about this and teaching, again, the same thing, teaching folks to code, and especially folks who are maybe right at the beginning of learning to code and don't even know where to start or where to go. That I think is, as an instructor, that's something that's very fulfilling to me, to see someone who is absolutely brand new and just giving them the right direction in getting going. So let's talk a little bit about Kickstart Coding. Right over here, we got this slide. As I mentioned, I was teaching at other coding bootcamps, other coding courses here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and Mark, the other instructor, was also teaching at some. And if you've done any research into coding bootcamps, and I don't know if anyone here has, but you know that the bootcamp model, I'm trying to point at the bullet point there, but the bootcamp model tends to have a lot of flaws. Notably, one is these things can be extremely expensive. So $12,000 to $35,000 is the common price range you'll see with a lot of them. A lot of the ISA type ones are capped at $35,000, and then a lot of the ones that have where you just pay up front or whatever can often be easily $12,000 to $15,000, which is a lot of money. And that's not just here in the San Francisco Bay Area, even though this is Silicon Valley, so it's it's the hub of everything, right? But even though that's the case, you'll see that in many other cities they're still really expensive. So I really love teaching these coding courses, but at the same time I felt that there's a lot of ways that it just excluded people too, because a lot of them require full-time commitments that most people just don't have available. They don't have that time available to devote 60 hours a week into learning to code. So making sure that it is open to existing coders and folks who can code, making sure it's open to brand new people is a really important thing to me. And finally, the thing that really bugged me, and I'm gonna again try to, there we go, right there, there's the outdated technology. So a complaint that I've made, and I'm not the only instructor to have made this complaint before about learning to code, or about coding bootcamps, I should say, is that very often their technology that we're learning or teaching, it could be updated a little bit. So that's why we started Kickstart Coding. We wanted we wanted to solve these 4 issues. And I guess we also had a lot of students who tried a different route. We had a lot of students who tried a self-paced learning strategy. So I don't know if anyone here has maybe tried doing YouTube videos or online tutorials, but that's a pretty common route that people try. Now, YouTube videos, tutorials, those are great, but they also have some problems. And although they're really cheap compared to the coding bootcamps, they still have a lot of downsides. Notably, students were saying they had trouble with motivation, the lack of support. Learning to code, and anyone who's taken our course or anyone who's taking a coding bootcamp will say this exact same thing. Learning to code is one of the hardest things you will ever try, all right? It is hard. It is a really hard thing to do. It's not impossible, all right? It's not impossible, but it is a hard thing to do, which means that when you're trying to do a hard thing and you don't have motivation, you don't have support, you don't have a community, that just makes it that much harder. And on top of all of that, when you're just trying to do self-paced learning, it's really hard to know if you're learning something that's out of date, that's fallen behind, or something that is, or if that's relevant to what people are using in the industry. Because without having experienced engineers, it's going to be tricky to know if what you're learning is actually the thing that software companies here in the San Francisco Bay Area or just elsewhere in the world is actually using, if it's up to date, if it's cutting edge. So these were all downsides with self-paced learning that I heard as well. So what we wanted were, as a group of passionate instructors about coding, we wanted to make a part-time, affordable, and inclusive coding bootcamp, one that worked for everybody, so we could keep on teaching and also feel good that we're helping folks learn, and it's not just, you don't feel like it's a ripoff at the end of the day or anything like that. That's the last thing I would want. So how did we do this? So this is the challenge. We want something that's affordable, that works for everyone at different skill levels. That's always a tricky thing I've learned with teaching, is that it's often really hard to gauge skill levels and make sure people are learning at their pace. Everyone has different ways of learning, different paces. And when you're doing a coding bootcamp style course where it's from 0 to 60, right, where you're covering so much ground, the fact that people are at different levels presents an extra teaching challenge. And finally, we wanted to make sure it built modern software engineering skills, not just playing around with some toys or some little toy projects or fake little things. We want to make sure that our students are learning something that they can directly apply to the real problems, real issues that they will be facing as an engineer. So relevant skills. So I'm a total nerd, and I'm also kind of a perfectionist, so we took a very scientific approach to all of this. And you'll notice that we do kind of go overboard with the things we do, this included. And the scientific approach we took was start off with a lot of research. Now, I mentioned earlier in this event that we are just now switching to the online course, and that's true. However, we were thinking about doing an online course even before COVID hit. I would say that when the pandemic hit, it just changed our timetable a little bit. It moved everything up a little bit because it became suddenly way more urgent that we learn how to teach online and deliver this sort of online learning class that fits all of these criteria. It just increased the speed. However, we've actually been researching this for about a year now. In fact, we had a user experience researcher help us out. I've made the habit of paying a few things forward, so to speak, and this particular researcher did us a favor in exchange for myself helping them out in a way, and they helped us out with a kind of thorough research into how to build an online course that solves all of these issues, like that actually does these things. And we want to succeed where others have failed or others have made mistakes. Now, you can see on this slide, there's a bunch of pages up here. There's 9 pages of research that was produced, which is, I think, pretty impressive. And then we also did some software usability surveys on our LMS software. I'll get to that later, but we did a little bit of research into how to make a effective and efficient software platform. And you see on this next slide, this is a word cloud that is of all the things that people talked about. Not surprisingly, online course stuff, I guess, is all words that people use. But I guess the more important thing on this slide is these little snippets that I took out from all our research. So we interviewed students, we interviewed instructors to try to figure out what is not working, what is working with the way people do online teaching right now. So what works, what doesn't, how can we fix it? That's what we're trying to do. And you can see a few tidbits I got here was the one thing that I heard from a lot of students is that when they were taking an online course, I talked with some folks who had taken online coding boot camps before, and they felt disconnected. And they felt that not only just disconnected with their instructors or with other students, but disconnected with just even what they're learning itself. They felt that it was stitched, all these different things, like it was Google Docs, it was Slack, it was all these different technologies all stitched together, and it was sometimes really hard to find information. They felt a little bit like lost what they were supposed to do next. I also found folks who said that they need somebody. They just need someone telling one what to do. Like one of our earliest kind of alpha or beta testers, this is a quote from them, who tested our course months ago before we officially launched. They said that they had gotten an associate's in web design, in fact, and so I think it was in web design, and they were, but what they had learned in school just wasn't really relevant to what they were trying to, like, all the jobs that were out there, what they were trying to apply for. And furthermore, because they were ready, there was no like help that they got from their school to actually like learn how to even apply for them. So like, we gave them our career advice and our help about how to do this sort of thing, where to even apply, where to even start with switching your career. And that was a big pain point, because they just didn't even know how to do the job applications or the interview process or any of that those nuts and bolts of how to actually make this career change. Because if you're not familiar with coding or the tech industry, then you're just probably there's a good chance you might approach the job application process wrong too, or just not even know where to begin. And that's another thing that we wanted to make sure we could instruct and help students with, is that sort of just experience of that. We've all been there before, but you haven't. So that's what we wanted to help you out with, or help students out with. And then I guess one other really important thing is that we found a lot of students just need somebody to be mean to them. People need folks to be mean to them, because it's hard to learn something, and you kind of need someone to be like accountable to, or to have that pressure on you about actually learning the material. So those were all kind of the input that we got about building it. And we also got some really good input from just interviewing instructors. So the one thing we got from that, a few things. One is just the difficulties involving online teaching and the tools available for online teaching. So that was a big issue that we wanted to tackle, and I'll get to that, how we tackled that later. But we also, one thing that we got some feedback that we got of stuff that we're doing right, that we would not want to stop doing, we want to keep on doing this right, is the small team, small feedback loop feedback. So in-person teaching, you get immediate feedback from people in the class. And with smaller classes, like our course is really small, was really small. We only have, like in our in-person courses, we only have about 20 students in the classroom with 2 instructors. So you get that really close in-person feedback from students. And because we also have a small team in another sense, so for folks who are on the chat, either on the stream or on the Hangout right now, so you here, this is our entire staff. It's all 4 people. And how many do you think, this is going to be kind of a silly question maybe, but how many do you think of these people have done curriculum development, have taught before, have done enrollment management and admissions, and have done, what other things? TAing. Yeah, okay, I think those are kind of the things we do. I don't know. But those are the things. How many of those 4 things, how many people here do you think have done all 4 of those? All of them, yes! Correct. So yeah, all of us do everything. That's kind of the small feedback loop we're talking about. Thank you, Miranda. That is exactly correct. So, whoops. There we go. Put that back there. So yes, I'm going to go ahead, all 4 of us. I don't know why I circled our faces, but that somehow like emphasizes it, I think. So all 4 of us have done everything, and that, I think that keeping the team small, keeping everybody working on everything is how we just make our system even better, because everyone knows how everything else works, and we're a small team that has that feedback loop where we're constantly improving. So how do we do all of this? We've gotten all this research. We know what the pain points are. We know how we can improve. Introducing Kickstart Coding Online. This is what we came up with in the end. So what we created was what we were calling a custom-paced coding bootcamp. So we have, kind of on one end of the spectrum, we have full-time coding bootcamps, and those are the ones that you see advertised a ton. I know, like here in the Bay Area, there's like billboards all over the freaking place about these things, but I bet elsewhere there's definitely a lot of ads that will follow you around about them. And these full-time coding boot camps, they are great in that they are very rigorous and they really put you through your paces. But the downside is they tend to be expensive, as I mentioned earlier. $12K to 12 to like $35K or so, give or take. And then they are restrictive, so like existing coders only usually, so like, no noobs, and inflexible. So like they often have 60+ hour requirements. Even the ones that are part-time usually have like 30-hour a week requirements, or even 40-hour. Like a lot of the ones that, I know I was teaching one that was part-time too at Berkeley Extension, and students were a little bit shocked that by part-time they mean about 40 hours a week or so. So that even the ones that are part-time tend to be very strict, very inflexible. So as kind of a in-between, but then I guess let me start with the other side of the spectrum. We have self-paced learning. So this would be like Udemy and Coursera. All of these different platforms that are great because they tend to be very cheap. Like you can get a course on Udemy for $10, and that's awesome. $15. A lot of them are pretty cheap, but also like YouTube-based, free YouTube-based ones. There's a lot of free YouTube ones. But of course, the issue you get with self-paced learning is you have no support, no community, and you don't get that motivation of someone kind of metaphorically breathing down your neck and making sure you actually learn the material. So lack of that feedback is really a shame. So that's how we came up with the custom-paced platform and system. So with the custom-paced idea is that we want to bring in the structured learning that you get with a full-time course rigor and realistic learning you get from that. And then the most important thing, I think, in a coding course that you're taking online isn't live lectures, because with the custom-paced one, you do not have live lectures. You just have video-based lectures. It isn't actually the live lectures, but it's actually the one-on-one tutoring and live review sessions that I feel are the most helpful for folks learning. Watching a lecture could be a video, it could be live, but that actually, especially with lectures where you're not really feeling like you can participate much online, that's going to be kind of, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. It's not going to have a big difference. But where the real impact is getting that one-on-one help with someone who's you're accountable to, weekly. So it's weekly tutoring sessions, and then weekly review sessions as well, group review sessions as well. And also an online community that is right now very small, but we're still growing in terms of kind of having other peers to learn from. Then finally, because of this kind of hybrid structure, we managed to bring the price down to $299 a month. So that's much cheaper. And I will say that I know we're very biased because we invented all this and we're trying to make it really good, but I will say that that is indeed the cheapest we've found of anything that's similar to it. So we are actually trying to make this as affordable as possible, because I think most people who are trying to learn to code, I don't know about you all, but most people who are trying to learn to code, typically you don't have a ton of money to blow on this. Typically you're doing it because you want to improve your career, or maybe even part of that improving your career involves getting more money, right? So typically you aren't going to have a ton to blow. And now I know this is not cheap by any means, but it is hopefully at least affordable, and definitely more affordable than the thousands and thousands, like the several thousand a month you would expect from the full-time course. So that's what we've done with the custom paste one. And I guess one thing I didn't mention, this custom thing I've got another slide. Yeah, here we go. So same things I already pretty much said, but one thing I didn't mention was the personalized aspect. I'll get to that again in a minute, but we made a system where you can actually pick how many hours a week you have, and we'll try to hold you accountable to that amount. And then you'll get a learning plan that fits with that number of hours. So if you're brand new to coding, you've got kids, a job, and life, and all of that kind of is in your life. And then which means you only have maybe a few hours every evening to devote to this, like say 10 hours a week. We'll figure out a plan for you. You'll still be able to do it. You'll be able to do the same material as anyone else. It'll just take longer, obviously. Obviously, you can't just make it faster, right? But it will just take longer. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with that. And then finally, for anyone who knows a bit about coding, we are really serious about making this cutting edge. We actually have a few blog posts, including one that kind of mildly blew up about how we did this, about how we keep our code up to date, or keep our curriculum up to date. And I would say the most up-to-date curriculum. Again, we're a little bit biased, but as far as I can tell, we are very up-to-date in terms of what we're teaching. Definitely judging by the reaction from the blog post, we actually got a few people who are like, oh, I wish my coding course did that. Was one comment I just read today, this morning, in fact, about our React with hooks upgrade. Someone was like, mentioned something like that. So we do try to keep things up to date. And ultimately, we are just super, super passionate about making this coding school accessible for everybody. So, I mean, that's back in the old days, as you can tell, of how it was to teach. But again, we want a coding school that is available for everyone and accessible for everyone, and that's what we're doing. So, cutting edge, I mentioned we teach Python on the back end, and you can see that this is you'll find a ton of other charts just like this, but you can see that Python is the language to learn for 2020. It is and beyond, it is a language that is not only popular with web development, but it's also popular in AI, data science, all these other fields. Python is not only popular with it, Python is it, pretty much. Like, Python is AI, is data science. There's not a lot of other options. There's a few older options for data science, but everybody's using Python. And not only that, though, it's also really popular for web development, which is what we use to teach it. And it's also a good beginner's language. That's the main reason we teach it. It has nothing to do with how popular it is, but because it is good for beginners. So it's good for advanced folks, it's good for beginners, and everybody in between. Also, it's my favorite language. So it's all of those. And then, as I mentioned, we have upgraded our curriculum to use hooks, which is, if you've done anything with React, you know, is the latest and hottest and greatest. And we also use modern JavaScript first. So again, if you're brand new to coding, you don't know what any of these words are, that's fine. You will learn that. You can learn that. We will tell you how that works. But if you do know a little bit about coding, you'll know that if you've maybe tried teaching yourself or looking up online, you'll know that a lot of JavaScript tutorials out there still are using these kind of older syntaxes like var instead of something else. So we try to at least, you know, it's not like you won't learn anything from those. That's still fine to learn that. But we want to make sure our students start with, indeed, what is the most popular in the industry right now versus what was really popular like 8 years ago or something. Personalized, I mentioned we have a really unusual option that I think we're the only coding course that does this, to my knowledge, that we will take in your input, your requirements, and build a custom schedule just for you, which means you'll be in the same class with other folks learning it, but they might be learning at a different pace. So you'll still be able to talk with other people or chat with other people who are learning this material, but your pace will be your own pace of learning it, and you'll still have a structure. You'll have due dates, and there's exams, there's the whole thing, quizzes and all of that. But when you take those is going to be up to your schedule versus, you know, up to somebody else's. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, that's an example of exactly this. And actually, while I'm at it, why don't I post in... Do you want to post again? I'm going to post actually in... Actually, Kevin, could you post in the Twitch chat a link to online... the online link, online.kickstartcoding.com. We have a few viewers on Twitch, too. We're trying different platforms here for folks who are joining us via Google Hangouts. Yeah, this actually I just mentioned this is the thing right here. So we actually create a custom schedule just for you that has a where you can actually where your due dates, your events with tutors and all of that show up right there. So you have like when you have to get stuff done, when you have your scheduled events, when you have office hours, and all of that can actually be exported to your Google Calendar too, so you can get notifications and just kind of. It's, you know, as close to a real class as we can. That's what we're trying to do. This is a real class. I just realized what I said. This is a real class, but it is as close to an in-person class as we can. That's what we're trying to do. As I mentioned, affordable. So it's a $2.99 a month pay-as-you-go system. And I realize I'm low on time, so I'm going to just go on right to the next slide here. We also like to steal a lot of cool ideas from other coding courses. So most of these are actually not really stolen. Most of these are our own thing, but some are stolen. We're stealing some good ideas from other courses and also kind of coming up with some of our own. Notably using your own ideas for portfolio building projects. So we want to make sure whatever you're working on for the course is something that you care about. That's about you. That's about your interests. So all the work you will do for the course that's like homework or submitted is going to be your ideas. And then you'll have a real live human being grade that thing and give you feedback on it. And then a real life human being one of us, to be clear, not just any real life human being, but one of the instructors. And then we also have online quizzes. We have printable quizzes, printable cheat sheets for every module. So you have like material, online reading assignments. So you've got more stuff to read, more resources. And then finally, we want to cement backend and computer fundamentals first. So we don't want you to go on to flashy stuff before you get the fundamentals in. And then one final thing too is we only support Mac and Linux, but if you are a Windows user, we will help you get started even there. Linux is a thing you can install on Windows, so that's one of the ways we can help students who are completely beginners and maybe not want to going out and buying a Mac because Macs are really expensive. And I mentioned earlier that we really went all out. Boy, did we. So we wrote our own learning management software, LMS, because we kind of surveyed all of the ones out there. And I mean, we're a bunch of engineers, so we're like, hey, if these don't work, let's make our own. And that's what we did. So we looked at all other learning management softwares out there, and honestly, every other coding bootcamp I've worked at and every other coding bootcamp other instructors have worked at, they've all done the same thing just because the software out there isn't good enough for running a online course. So we wrote our own, which is this LiveSyllabus software, and I'll demo that actually in one moment so you can see what it looks like. And that's it. That's it for my presentation. Any questions from anybody before I go on to demoing our platform and our curriculum?
I have one.
Go for it, Miranda. Yes, we do help with resume presentation. Thank you, Harrison. So yes, I'll be really clear about the job transition thing. A lot of, so most of our students are taking this course to get a new job. That's the normal, I realize I'm looking at the camera if I look up here, but I see you down there, which is why I should look up there. So as I was saying, most of our students, are taking this course because they want a new job or they want to boost the existing job they have. Like they already have a tech job, they want to make it better. Now, one thing we're really clear about right from the beginning is that getting a new job in tech is always hard. It's not going to be easy. It's a competitive market out there. In other words, there's a lot of people who are trying to switch to tech right now, not just because of COVID, but just because in general, also because of COVID, but also just in general, you get cushy jobs with nice benefits that you can work from home. So what else can you want? So that's one thing we mentioned. Your exact question was about resume help. Yes, we absolutely do resume help. So we have a career course. At the end of taking we've got 3 other courses that are more focused on coding and more on building up your portfolio and your skills. The last course we have is our career course, which is about giving you some fundamentals to be able to do well in interviews. The interview process for software developer roles is very, very tough. It is like when I work, I don't want to go too much of a digression here, but probably one of the hardest sets of interviews I had was for Microsoft. And Facebook was really, really hard too, but Microsoft was actually just more time consuming. And that was I had 6 hours of back-to-back interviews where they were just grilling me on literally even the lunch break was an interview with my future boss. We went out to eat, and then it was just grilling me on everything. I'm like, wow, I can't great burrito, I guess. My mouth is full and I'm trying to answer your questions. But it was the interview process for tech jobs can be really tough. That's one extreme and that was actually after 2 hours of screening interviews ahead of time. I had 2 hours of screening interviews and then 6 hours of on-site. But that's one extreme. That was Microsoft. You have other cases where it's just going to be maybe 40 minutes or an hour of interview or a couple hours of interviews. And we try to help you prepare for those. We try to help you prepare for your resume, get it all fixed up. If you don't have a lot of coding experience, which most people who are taking our course don't, we'll try to think of ways that you can re-express your existing experience to make it seem more tech, essentially. And kind of create the image that you want to show to potential employers. Also with your LinkedIn, your all of these different profiles. Great question, Miranda.
Another one.
Go for it.
Do you think it's harder for people who join bootcamp or harder for people that get a college degree?
Great question.
In tech?
Great question. I have a college degree in computer science. But I think the thing that really helped me get jobs was actually getting kind of early internships right away, and then having that work experience was probably even more important than my college degree. In terms of, but I will be completely honest and say that I think a computer science degree is worth a lot more than a bootcamp graduation certificate or whatever. The certificate isn't really worth anything. I'll just be actually completely clear there. Nobody looks, for at least tech companies, at least if you're applying to a tech company, they don't care which courses you've taken. They mostly just care about your work experience and how well you do in these interview processes. That's the main thing they care about is work experience, and like they screen by work experience, and then they also do all those interviews to try to like weed out folks who don't really know it. But like to be perfectly honest, I think a computer science degree is better than a bootcamp graduation certificate. But even if you have a CS degree, I mean, we've had students who have CS degrees take our course. Even if you have a CS degree, it's still going to be largely about your experience and about how well you do in the interview process.
Also, if I gain skills from Kickstarter, the tech world, they would look at that.
They would. You're still gonna really have to hustle though. It's like it's all about connections too. That's another thing. Like our coding curriculum or our career curriculum is based on this idea of you both have to know your stuff, and then you also have to be able to like get your foot in the door and get your resume to the person who needs to see it. So like if so like the what I'd recommend is thinking about like or like the way to think of this is, let's say you complete our curriculum and it's, you know, takes you we our estimate is like 4 months to a year depending on how much time you're spending. So let's say you complete all the material, you feel ready to start, or maybe you don't feel ready, but we're telling you you're ready to start applying, and you start applying. Well, just applying to jobs is going to be pretty hit and miss. You're gonna want to like go to meetups like this one. You're gonna want to like hit up all your friends who might have a job at a tech company or just anything related to that. You want to make new friends who might have jobs at tech companies, and just say, hey, I'm looking for this position, because probably the job you're going to get is going to come through a connection and not through just submitting your resume through an online portal, if that makes sense, Miranda. It's a real hustle like out there. Like I've helped so many students by now that I've gotten the sense of like we had I don't know if uh, Jensen's still on this stream, but he graduated a few months ago, and I know he's been working his ass off applying for everything, or applying for things, and go like networking, doing open source work with different projects to get those connections. And he's doing a great job of all of that. If he's on the stream now, good job. Just to be clear, but but that is but that is kind of what to expect. Is like you're going to be jumping through so many hoops. Not to discourage you, because it's totally possible. Like I've had so many students jump through those hoops and just, I mean, it's great. They can change their lives around. I've had students really change their lives around in ways that just like make me do what I do, right? But at the same time, like we try to be really honest that it's not going to come easy.
So it's better if I get my degree.
Um, yes. I would say a computer science degree is definitely worth it. Yeah, but we teach very different things. I think that's the key thing. Is a computer science degree teaches you how to think. It teaches you kind of math concepts about coding, but it doesn't teach you the technology that you would need to get, or like the technology you'll use on the job. That's kind of the difference. The computer science degree is about learning how to think, how to approach coding problems, how to the core underlying concepts, whereas a coding course like ours is about the skills that you use every day. So it's more job focused training, if that makes sense. Like I would say even do both. A lot of people do both. That's a reasonable thing too. Does that make sense at all, Miranda? Either way, it's, you know, I know sometimes folks have or sometimes people have a view that there's a lot of coding jobs out there and they're just like waiting for me out there. And I know it's sometimes it can be discouraging to hear that it's a very competitive job market for coding jobs, but I do want to just say that it is totally possible. So you can get a new job in coding if you want that. And you know, even if you don't take our course, I'd be happy to help like give you any pointers necessary. So yeah, problem. And I thank you, Kevin, for answering all that. Let's see. I'm kind of looking at the answer or the questions that Harrison had. Harrison, if you have any follow-ups, let me know too. Yeah, so Kevin mentioned, there is 4 courses we have, so it is a set curriculum in that sense. But then will kind of arrange those courses and arrange the classes in those courses to make sure it teaches what you're looking for is the goal. And our estimates are about. Yeah.
So I've talked to a few bootcamps.
Mm-hmm.
They told me we're not as honest as
Oh, this is why I started my own. I'll be honest. That's why.
they told me that you'll get a job, and it's like, well, they promised me all this stuff.
Oh man.
And they said that you don't even, just you have to know the skills and get a job right away.
I think that was a sales pitch, unfortunately, or that came from the marketing department and not from the instructors. So at the coding bootcamp I used to teach here in the Bay Area, they said the same thing to my students, and my day one was like, hey, so this is how it's going to be. It's going to be really, really tough, you know. But yeah, it's definitely not guaranteed. That is an absolute. It can happen. You can do it, but it's going to be tough. And it'll take a while probably. Now, that said, I mean, every single one of our classes or cohorts, we've had at least one student get a new job before the end of the cohorts, but that's like 1 out of 20. But still, we have had that, so that is possible, including folks getting completely new career changes before the end. But I think that's more kind of one end of the spectrum in terms of what to expect. The other end is it could take months and months and months and months and months of networking and applying and getting lots of no's.
Everything.
Yeah.
So if I know somebody,
Mm-hmm.
that's like a plus.
That is a plus. Yes. You want to be good friends with them. go and buy them a beer or something. I don't know. Get them a nice coffee. I don't know. And generally and this is something they don't tell you in the marketing. I mean, I'll just be really frank. They don't tell you. The marketing for other boot camps tend to be really not very honest. And one thing they don't tell you is most of those success stories they have on those websites is the way that people got that new job is they knew somebody at that company. That's generally how it all goes. Because I'm as an instructor, I see this. Yeah, that's how it is. Now, of course, that means if you're trying to get a new job, you got to know people at companies, and you're going to have to maybe you already know a few tech people, or maybe you should just start making some new friends. So that's kind of how it goes. Yeah, no problem. So I was going, and I see, yeah, cool. Kevin already put out that contact information. Also, if you're interested in learning more about us, so if you just go to our online.kickstartcoding.com, you can go all the way down to the bottom here and apply. And if you apply, you'll get onto our mailing list we send out, we're about once a week or maybe a little bit less frequently than that. We're very non-spammy, and it's a very polite, non-markety sort of emailing list, we swear, but we will mention things like other events and stuff, we have, there's a mailing list or a email that'll go out tomorrow that'll have 4 events on it, I think, that we're promoting. A lot of cool things going on, and just, stay in the loop. So you can just start an application. You'll be added to our mailing list here. Even if you don't complete the application, you'll still be on our just by applying. Great question. How many people? So our max capacity is not 20 at this point for the online course, just because it's people are taking a much slower pace than our in-person one. Our in-person one like everybody was taking it at the maximum speed, which meant like 20 was pretty much as many as we could have. So our maximum is quite a bit. Like people are taking it at like maybe a quarter of the speed. Most people are taking it about the quarter of the speed. So we have higher maximum. We currently have about 15 people enrolled. We just launched like a week ago, basically. So this is still super brand new. You'd be among the first students in our online program. Yeah, but that said, we do have a max capacity that we have not fully calculated yet. But so do apply soon if you're interested. And then yeah, ground level, exactly. This online thing is new to us. Even though we've had a lot of experience teaching the other way, this is all new. Das Miko says, if we complete all the courses in the Kickstart curriculum, is there any additional advanced learning courses you offer? Yeah, great question. So, by the time you've completed all the courses in our curriculum, maybe we'll have created new advanced level ones because I think that'll take we're talking about like probably like 6 months or something, or a year or so, and I do intend to like make a few more advanced courses maybe sometime next year when I get the time. But that said, we do have lots of recommendations. In terms of recommendations, we have a lot of that for like learning resources and how to like keep your job set fresh. Like again, I don't know if Jensen's watching this, but one thing he followed our recommendations, which is really cool. I love that, and he joined these open source groups like Open Oakland or Code for America San Francisco Brigade, and has been working on just like really cool projects as he's just to keep his skills sharp as he's applying for like apprenticeships and internships and all of that. Exactly, 100 days of code he's been doing, which is a cool thing. Cool hashtag. Any other questions? I realize we've got 6 minutes left, which is actually just the right amount of time to show off the platform. Oh no! Come on. Hold on. Okay, so last time I did this presentation, the reason I'm making like upset noises is the last time I did this presentation, the same thing happened, that I forgot the password for my testing account. And you can't reset it too, is the other thing, right? Do you remember what it was? I said it to you, Kevin, and then I forgot it. Nope. Okay, I can, it's on the other computer. That is true. Any other questions, let me know while I'm trying to remember the password to show this thing. Got just a few minutes left in our time, so. I'm gonna set it. I'm gonna do the onboarding process. That's what I can do, and that'll let me reset it. I see. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't hear if you said something, Rhonda, but I see there's a few. I see there's a few questions. Did you have a question, Miranda? Sorry.
No, I have 22% on my phone.
Oh no. Okay. um, here. So I see. Yeah, an Ubuntu ThinkPad will be good. That is literally the computer right over. Not this one, but the one over there. I have a ThinkPad. Yep. And ThinkPads are indeed the one that I suggest. So I am a ThinkPad fan. So and I use Ubuntu also. Both me and Kevin do. So let's give this a shot. Okay, this is what it's like to start a new application. When you're just starting with Kickstart Coding, you'll see something like this. And I realize that I'm blocking the screen a little bit. I'm going to make this window smaller so you can see it. There we go. So then we're just going to do next, and then create password and save. And then I'll answer the other questions I have are the other questions are, nope. Let's just do that real quick. Okay, so this is, there we go. This is what you'd see when you first log in. And I see you have one already. Are there any minimums you should check? Honestly, if you can use a web browser, like the fact that you're able to watch this, that's probably the most strenuous thing you'll do on your computer is live video streaming, to be honest. With coding, the coding itself tends to be less strenuous than just like watching a video. So if you can do that, you're golden. I have like, this computer right here is literally like a $120 like refurbished thing I picked up once. So, and I've been using it now for like 3 years to code. So you don't need a lot. So anyway, once you've logged in, so this is our online platform. There's like a chat system up here, and you'll see that like there's like a course related chat, a general chat, and then you have a questions channel. So this special channel is just for you and the instructor, so you can ask questions on it privately if you ever want to. And we'll try to get back to you within like 24 hours or so to answer your coding questions. And then you see, and I'll get to your question in a second, Harris. Actually, I realize we have 1 minute left. I'll answer your question quick, Harris, then I'll go back to the demonstrations. You said, what do you think is the hardest obstacle for people to take our course? I think the main thing that people report is honestly, the main thing that people report is learning to code is harder than they thought it would be. Even though we say very often that it's really, really hard, and we say that over and over, I think I think people are listening, but like at the same time, you don't really know how hard it is until you try it, right? Then you start to get really a feel for just how tricky it is. So I think just learning to code in general, yeah, maintaining motivation, exactly that is tough because learning to code is all about trial and error. That's a thing that you're probably going to be a little bit surprised about, is that you, even as an experienced developer, a lot of it is like, does it work now? Does it work now? Does it work now? And so having that patience, it's like, but of course, the flip side of that is, it can be frustrating, it can be demotivating, it can be a lot of, I'm really selling it, aren't I? It can be just this challenge. But on the flip side, of course, once you actually get something to work, it's just like the victory is that much sweeter, right? So I think that's kind of, I think, one big thing. The other big thing is just it's time consuming to get the practice in. I think that's another big obstacle too. Do you have a Discord or a Slack? So at the moment we just have this, which is our chat system that's for our students to ask questions. And this, if I click on, let's see, I don't want to, I guess there's nothing really private on these at the moment, so I can click on one of these. So this is just normal conversations here. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that our students wouldn't want to be shared, but I think we're good. So here we have an example of what it looks like. It looks just like Slack, honestly. Yes, and Googling for answers. There's kind of a running joke that developers are really, the only thing they're really good at is Googling, but it's one of those, it's kind of true. Like, you get better and better at using Google. So you can see here that I literally had Slack open on one side, and then I was like making this application on the other side of the other window. So it does look a lot like Slack, and it's a custom built chat platform just for our students to ask questions and converse with each other. So then the lessons themselves, I mentioned, are all video based. So you don't actually, there is no live lectures. For $2.99 a month, we can't offer live lectures. That's just, that would be just too expensive for something for us to offer. But you do get the exact same material that our live lectures have in this video-based format. So this is the same thing that you would get from a live course. And I mean, does this setup look familiar to you at all? So this exact same setup I'm using to do this. I'm filming all the lectures with that. So we go through, so you can watch those videos, and then the videos also have like these activities that are code based. So you can download. All our activities are in these zip files, and those contain like these coding challenges. So each lesson has about 4 to as many as like 7 or 8, I think at the max, coding projects and challenges associated with them. And this is actually only the beginning of our material. We have about 40 some lessons total. So it's a pretty big amount of material we have, especially compared to some other online courses. And then you use these little challenges that in each zip file to learn different coding techniques, fill in the gaps, learn how to debug, and then you use the videos that kind of go over like how to solve each one. Like this is just a solution to one of those coding challenges where I just solve it for you to follow along or understand. And you can see that's kind of how all of these look. And then we have a Prework. Prework is a free course. So if you find any of this interesting, we can actually get you onboarded with the Prework course right away. And it's just kind of a warm-up course. It doesn't go super deep into any of the coding stuff. It's more just to kind of build technology foundational like understanding and words and terminology and all of that. And that is, as I mentioned, totally free. So if you're interested in our curriculum, you can just you can sign up for an application, and we are and then we'll onboard you onto just like I showed you, onto this platform, and you'll gain access to this free thing. And then we also have homework assignments. As I mentioned, it's all stuff that you do. You bring your own topic, but but we provide kind of the structure and the help. And then I guess the calendar view is kind of an important view. This is the schedule that we'll make for you, and then you can export this calendar to your own software, your own like Google Calendar or whatever to get access to that elsewhere. Or you can just use it here.
Hi.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm on 10%. I have to go.
No! Okay, Miranda. Thank you so much for joining, and also thank you for going on voice and video. I know sometimes we have these and everyone isn't on voice or video, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you, Miranda.
Guys.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. Bye. Thank you, guys. Bye.
See ya. Cool. If there's any other questions, I mean, we're a little bit over, but I'm happy to answer them if you have any other questions. Dasmiko or Harrison?